How do you incorporate videos into your website?
Let's get into it.
Video Mavericks, the small business video marketing podcast. Presented by Workshop Media. With your hosts, Brett and Jeff, sharing a combined 40 years of video production and marketing experience. Take it away.
All right, so your website is a digital storefront, right?
Yeah. So you should absolutely be using it to continue to talk to people online.
It's loaded with text, loaded with imagery, likely. Why not video?
That's exactly right. So that's what we're talking about today. It's all about how to use video assets on your website and some various ways to make the most out of that content, some best practices for sharing the content on your website, some maybe ideas for what types of video makes a lot of sense on your website.
Yep.
And so we're going to dig into that a little bit and provide some value for you as you think about either updating your website or populating it with video for the first time.
That's right. Video is a game changer for your business, and having it on your website is an amazing idea. So why use video on your website?
So you said it right at the top of the episode, and that's that your website is your digital storefront. It's a place for storytelling, introducing or reintroducing your brand,
Reinforcing your brand
That's
based
exactly
on what
right.
somebody might already know.
Yeah. So your website is just it's yours to be whatever you want it to be. So you can craft and shape it in whatever makes sense for your business. So if you want video on there, you can have video on there. You know, you don't have as many rules that you have to kind of play by like you would on some social media platforms or other places. You can make it genuinely authentic to who you are, and
Just like you would as people walked in your actual store, right?
Curate the experience for your customers so that they see your business the way that you want them to see it.
So if your website is a great tool for storytelling to let your customers know exactly your mission, your vision, your values for the business, how you're solving your customers' pain points, who you are in the marketplace, video is going to be an excellent tool to continue that storytelling, right?
Yeah, and you know, if you're sharing content out on the social platforms or elsewhere, having content on your website is just going to help to reinforce your brand when people ultimately land there. So we were talking a little bit before the show about maybe some of the different types of businesses and what their website content might look like. So if you have a business that is e-commerce, your website's going to look totally different than if you're maybe a consulting firm that has a dozen clients and you're at capacity. So it's not one size fits all.
Yep. But what's the common thread though? That video will help you.
Yeah, it's a really effective way to get across any number of messages.
Just different types of videos work for different businesses.
Yeah, and we know there's loads of statistics out there that support it, but people prefer video. They prefer to consume content in that way. And we're not saying that you shouldn't still have text and images on your website, but what we're saying is if people prefer video, then give it to them.
That's right. It's not one or the other.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, you'll have the text already. You have the images already. So supplement with video or put video on there and supplement with text. You know?
Yeah, you can tell the same story in 2 or 3 different ways. If you have a section of your website that's wordy and it's there by necessity, just do a video version of it, or vice versa. If you have a video and you want to make it, you know, more user friendly for folks who maybe need to be able to read the content to consume it, put it on there as well, or put it in there as some, you know, hidden text that they can get to. If that's how they prefer to consume the content. So
cool. So we've talked about this probably in every episode. I'm sure we talk about it everywhere we go. Video is an amazing way to connect emotionally with your target customers. It is the best medium for engagement, right? So putting that on your website is going to help continue to guide your customer in their journey with you, ultimately to spend money or to engage with you in some way. So putting these on different pages, whatever the video type is, it may be a storytelling piece, it may be a sales asset, it may be, you know, an explainer to show how a particular product or service works or what it's like to interact with the business. All of these are great ways to increase the value of your customer and their experience with you.
Yeah, and you're able to wrap your brand around every point of contact, which is particularly unique using video assets that maybe you can't do with just words. We're talking about putting videos on websites. Maybe the obvious question is, how do you do that? What are some logistical things to consider when you're to the point of placing video? One of the biggest ones that we believe in wholeheartedly is that where you host your content online makes a huge difference in how people get to you.
Yep.
So where do we put it?
We like YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube, there's a lot of players out there, or a lot of different platforms that'll host the videos, and some of them do look a little better than YouTube, in our opinion. But YouTube is, it's just a very strong platform solely for analytics, right? Solely for connecting your brand online with all your other digital touch points, right? It being connected to Google and having that robust analytics back end is why we suggest that.
It's hard to ignore a product that Google has put, so much energy into.
Yeah. And billions of views, daily.
It is a massive search engine as well. So what we're suggesting is that you are, and maybe if this isn't, maybe we shouldn't assume it's common knowledge, but when we say where to put the video, so when you're putting a video on your website, it has to live somewhere. The video file itself, has to live somewhere. And so what we're saying is that video needs, in our opinion, to live on YouTube. So it gets uploaded to YouTube. YouTube is going to take care of hosting that video so that when someone wants to watch it, when they click play, they're playing it from a server that YouTube is taking care of.
Yep.
And so when you're putting it on your website, you're creating a link that points them to YouTube. Now, that doesn't mean that when they click the video on your website that they're going to end up over on YouTube. It just means that the video's back end is on YouTube. And by having it there, it means that the user, depending on how you list it, and that's a little more detail than we need to get into, they could watch it on YouTube as a platform. They could go to YouTube, search your business, and find it. Or maybe you have it set up so that they can only access it from your website using an unlisted video type. But so the point here is that what we're saying is let YouTube be the back end for where the videos live. And that will open up a whole world of analytics, like you said, which is going to help you understand who's watching the content. It's going to help you understand where they're coming from. How did they get to it?
When they fell off, when you lost them,
You're going to learn an immense amount about the quality of the views that you're getting on the platform. And then there's SEO, which is a whole other world. So maybe let's unpack SEO a little bit.
That's kind of why, right? That's why you want to utilize YouTube.
Yeah.
Because of your location tagging, because of the hashtagging and the keyword rich descriptions and titles and hooking people and getting them in, right? So if you're using a different platform for your website, you're kind of missing out on that extra connection point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so having all of that in the back end is really going to help when somebody does search on Google, or if your website, if you have all of those keyword rich tags and descriptions and such, that's going to help Google crawl your site, crawl your YouTube, and connect all of those different digital footprints you have.
Yeah.
So putting it somewhere else doesn't make a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah.
When you have that, that ability.
So can you do keywording and things like that without it? Yes, you can. But why wouldn't you take this huge leg up?
The number 2 search engine, right?
And so SEO, I don't know if we defined it, but SEO is search engine optimization. It's basically just making your stuff easy to find. So YouTube does it better than any other video host out there right now. And if that changes in the future, we may change our opinion about where things go. But that's how it works as of today. And that's our recommendation. Put the stuff on YouTube.
No signs of changing.
Put it on YouTube. Spend the time to get the back end of the video really searchable, and enjoy that really organic connection between the rest of the internet and your website.
So something we haven't covered, a bonus here, and I think a lot of web developers and professionals in that space would say too much video on a website is going to slow it down. It's going to bog the site down, and there's a chance you might lose a customer because your pages aren't loading.
They're
quick enough.
frustrated trying to get to your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and things aren't, happening the way the designer or the way you, the small business owner, has kind of wanted the journey to happen as you reveal certain folds of the website and kind of take the customer on that storytelling journey. We get that, and that's another reason why we're saying to embed it elsewhere, so you're not kind of bogging down hosting the video inside of the web backend.
Yep.
Trying not to get too detailed in all of the sort of techie talk here, but
if YouTube goes down, everybody knows what's going on because it's huge.
Yeah, we're
if
all
your
a part of it.
website tanks because you've got too much video on it,
It's a solo issue.
you've got a problem.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world is not going to be in that same boat with you necessarily. So
That's right.
there's a little bit of a pass the blame. that
Google, get it back together.
that's
YouTube, get us online.
Yeah, there's a bonus to somebody else is dealing with it. And,
Right.
and frankly, YouTube is very cost effective at $0.
Where to use video on your website?
Yeah,
like
so-
what pages, what types of videos should I place where?
Yeah, so we can keep this relatively high level because we've gone into all the different video types. But if you think about generally a website is going to have a journey that is unique to that business, but there are some things that we tend to see across multiple websites. So something like an About Us type of page is typically going to exist. What is the business?
A brand video is one of our favorites.
Yeah, that's a great place to find a brand video. On the homepage of a website, there's a lot of times at the top of the page is a place where you could put a piece of video, some looping content that we would call a header video or a hero video.
Yep.
Which oftentimes doesn't have any sound or anything like that. It's just moving pictures
Just visually engaging. It's the first
Yeah.
thing you're landing. You're seeing a hook statement or something about your business and some visual representation. It's really nice.
Yeah, and then we get into more specific pages that might be specific to a type of business. So we talked a little bit about product pages. So what types of content makes sense on those?
Yeah. So thinking about if your product or service, or if you have an e-com business, something like that, any of these are going to be like explainers or product demos or just kind of ways to show off the product in use or what it's like to experience the service the business offers. I think something we should note though is that there's different styles of websites. There might be a sort of a one pager that kind of unfolds as you scroll. There might be multiple pages and sublinks to, there's different ways. So what we're describing here is just great video types for the best placement. You'll kind of get the idea of where you might place a certain video, that's going to make the most impact for your business.
Right.
So there's a lot of different websites that, or different places on websites where you could place video, and it might not perfectly align with what we're talking about, but the gist of it is the same.
I think an easy question to ask yourself is adding a video to a particular page going to improve your customer's understanding or experience? Yep. And if it is, then it's a good place to put it. And that's when you start to think about a product page or a service page, for example, being a great place for an explainer. You're going to provide more clarity for what they're looking for.
It's kind of funny. We're always like all the time, video, yes, do it, but you could also, sort of bog your site down and interrupt your customer's journey by doing it too much or kind of taking them out of that storytelling and what you want them to experience on your website. Yeah. So there is a fine line, right? Make sure you're being strategic. It's always about strategy and what your end goal was in the first place.
And then that inspires a thought for me, which is to say, when you are creating content, it's important to know kind of where you plan to put the stuff. I think we've talked about it for social platforms, make the content specific to the platform, but your website is maybe the most obvious. If you're going to do it yourself or work with, a video agency, if they're not asking where you're putting the content, you should ask them. You guys need to have that conversation because it's extremely important that you know where the stuff is going to end up. Social content maybe doesn't make sense on your website, and website content is probably too long for most social platforms, so
I agree. Yeah.
Just make sure you're purposeful and think that stuff through. And we've got lots of other content that sort of goes into detail about some of the different video types, but we can keep rolling. So we talked about explainers. Maybe one of the coolest ones that we really like is testimonial content. So I know me personally, and I think most folks would say there's one of the greatest things when you're choosing to buy from a company or choose a partner business is hearing that other people have had a good experience.
Or bad experience.
Or bad experience. Seeing, on the surface level, seeing a good Google review feels really nice.
Yes, absolutely. And a great number of them, right? All
Yeah.
saying the same kind of thing. you
Yeah.
know?
And so testimonial content on your website is like the cherry on top of a good Google review. It's somebody took the time to do this for you.
Name and title. They put their name and title on
Yeah.
it. I felt so good about the experience I had that I gotta tell people about it.
So if you think about your website, a testimonial video, it could live, at a high level on a page that's just what do people think of us, or it could live at the level of a particular product offering. Maybe your business has a series of product offerings, and you have testimonials that speak to each of those things.
Yes.
Somebody speaks to, working with you, the process that you offer, or the craftsmanship for what you're doing, and being able to place that stuff right in the journey where the customer's already headed, they're right there at a point of purchase decision making, and you go, hey, here you go. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
And it's somebody talking about their exact situation, but like one step farther.
Yep.
Which is really neat. And
Perfect. If your whole website is you telling your story, focusing on you, focusing on how you solve the problem, having someone else validate that on your website. I mean, that's like, that's the button on, that's the final, that's the swish, right? I love it. That's one of our favorites. So, and that could be anywhere. Like you made a great point. It could be about interacting with your business, or it can be very specifically this customer used this product and they want to talk about it. You know? And that's where it's kind of okay. There's kind of two different versions we like to talk about customer testimonial videos. It's kind of a produced version, and then there's the authentic, straight out of their mouth version,
talking
right?
head
Raw,
type thing. Yeah.
And you'd mentioned it earlier, we don't necessarily like to put the social type content on the website, but this is a type of video where it's okay to kind of have a more raw feel because it leads to more credibility, more authenticity.
I mean, how many times have we seen a Google review with a typo in it? Like, I know a bot didn't make that.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they don't, maybe
I don't know. Maybe the bot did. No.
All right, so some other types of videos, sort of high level, just to inspire some thought. FAQ videos. A lot of websites have a list of frequently asked questions. You can
Why not video?
You can very simply take that list and make a video version of it. It could be voiceover with text. It could be you as the business owner or somebody that works for the business answering those questions on camera. Those
as long as it would take. Sorry to interrupt you. As long as it would take to answer that question, is as long as the video should be.
Yep, it could be 7 seconds long if it's a 1-sentence answer. So. And then there's like sales pitches or video sales letters. So those have a place.
Direct sales asset, a direct pitch, that could be even a follow-up page if they click through and they were interested on this page, and it could be another page that has that already sort of queued up and ready to go.
And then there's like blog posts. So that can be a huge variety of content. It's sort of the place where you can get creative depending on your specific business. You made a great example before we started recording about, like a fitness studio being able to do a blog post for how to, do a particular exercise, or if they manufacture a yoga mat, maybe they show you how to use that yoga mat at home, or cleaning it, or prepping the surface, or whatever, the thing is. But it's a great place to kind of put the other content to continue to add value, maybe to make your site more searchable because you're answering questions that customers have.
I mean, what are you doing the
things,
blog post? What are you using it for anyway, right? It's authority, it's web traffic, it's those things. So putting video on there, embedding via YouTube, having that back end squared away, it's just another great way to continue to just bolster that web, of your digital footprint.
Yeah.
So that's great. So some key takeaways here.
Key takeaways. So video absolutely has a place on your website.
Embed them in the website for maximum reach and engagement.
Yep. Use YouTube. It's got great analytics. It's free. It's relatively easy. That rabbit hole can go very deep, but to get started with it, it's relatively low friction.
Place customer testimonials on your site. It's going to help build trust, credibility.
Yeah. And then just, when you're thinking about your site, think about where are the places that you can enhance it with video content to make it, easier to find, more customer friendly, and ultimately more effective.
I bet you're going to continue. I bet you're going to go through this process. You're going to continue to see okay, yeah, I should have been doing this. Like,
Yeah.
there's a page. Oh, wow, I could do one here. You know, you're going to see it. And then we'd say, all right, now let's like, you're moving through the bracket now. You're on your way to the big dance. Like, who makes the quarterfinals, semifinals, before, just really start to think about which ones matter now. Maybe I don't put one on that page.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Keep the quality and be strategic in it. And if you haven't built a website, this should be, when you're deciding to do it or you're working with somebody, have the conversation up front.
yep.
I want video and I need to make sure this is going to work, and maybe the site can be improved before you even start.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're going to continue to drop episodes weekly to help you grow and scale your small business with video marketing.